I just got my dream car. I got every exact feature I wanted and nothing more, saving me tons of cash. All because I factory ordered my car from Langley Chrysler. I was nervous at first when Nav suggested ordering, but when he explained all the advantages, I knew I had to.
You'll get exactly what you want. You'll save tons of money on unwanted features. You'll get the best discounts available from now until when the Jeep comes in. And you're getting access to the exclusive colors and trim options, which normally you wouldn't even see.
It was the best decision I've made. I'm gonna keep this car forever.
Don't settle, get your dream car. Get in touch to see your exclusive options for a factory order at Langley Chrysler.
Welcome everyone on today's episode of Kaur's Korner. So today we're actually going to talk about comparing. Comparing what? First we're going to talk about kids, and then we're going to talk about relationships. So what are the effects and what can we do instead? Anyone want to start?
Well, you've got a huge family, Gurpreet. Has that ever been a problem for you and your family between your siblings?
Oh my god, it's so funny because as soon as you guys mentioned comparing, I'm remembering like as a kid, I was always the goody two shoes, and I have an older sister who was like she thrived on being the rebel. Like it was so funny, but now when I'm looking back, I'm like, it's probably because we were always compared to each other. And so if I would do good in school, like she would, purposely do things like to get attention in other ways. So I almost feel like when you compare your kids with each other, it's so unhealthy because each kid is so unique, and you only realize that. Like for me, I'm really realizing it now being a mom. I'm like, my kid is so different from other children, and there's no way there's like, so even if you're a parent to like 5 kids, your parenting style does have to be different for each child because each child has different needs. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it has so much negative connotation if you're comparing each of your kids to each other.
And it changes in general. Like I've seen how my parents' parenting has changed by the time it's gotten to my sister.
Evolved.
I
Yes.
think they're just tired.
Yeah. And then I don't think for me it was comparing with my siblings. It was more so comparing with other people, like my cousins or even my friends or something. My mom would be like, "Oh, idda karte ho, idda tu idda dikhato nahi, like why aren't you like that? Like your friends are like this, they're so good." Or I don't know. It was just I just
get that all the time too.
But it's just funny because like when your friends go to your to meet your parents, they're on their best behavior.
Yes,
right? Like,
they always
that's not
are.
the reality of who they are. So it's like, I'm sure when that was happening in your mind, you're like, you don't even know.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna say that, right?
I got to the point where I started saying that because it was like, the teenage years, and we're all like going out and doing stuff, but we were doing it so openly that like my parents knew what we were doing. And when they'd say, "Oh, falane da bachcha thoda idda karta," I'm like, only if you knew, right? And I'm like, everybody's kids do it. They just hide it from the parents. We're too dumb to hide it, so we just tell you. And it was so funny because slowly now they get it. Now they're like, everybody's kids do this. But it's so funny how like at that time, they were so naive. Like they actually thought these other people's kids were that innocent because that's the way they portrayed themselves, right?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I can't even begin. And then I got resentful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm not gonna be like that. I'm just gonna be the way I want to be. If I'm gonna look bad, regardless, even when I'm trying my best, then let's just be bad.
Yeah.
Bad. My bad was not even bad, to be honest. It was just, I guess not really listening to them all the time. I guess that's considered bad, right?
Yeah.
So,
because in your mind, you're like, well, you're just going to see me how you want to see me. So, why should I try?
Why should I try? And I tried so hard to be that goody two shoes, and it wasn't enough. And yeah, I see that in my students as well. And reason why I also wanted to talk about this is because I just recently heard it with one of my kids where they were coming up to me crying on how they felt their parents were not being fair, right? They were comparing their cousin. It was a cousin relationship, right? So like, oh, my mom and my dad are always raving about how my cousin is always studying 24/7, always involved, and I am losing motivation because at the same time though, I'm not able to tell them that I don't think they're always studying. Like you can't be studying all day, every day, locked in a room. They just don't know what's happening. But at the same time, like I'm losing hope. She's starting to fail all her classes because she's not able to keep up. And like I pride myself in this, not gonna lie. I always share a lot of what I'm going through and what I've been through. And so they're able to come and share these things with me. And because I made the conversation, because as teachers sometimes will, especially in high school, we kind of create a thread like, hey, how are they doing in your class? Are they acting the same way? Blah, blah, blah. And then that's when I found out that she's not doing well in the other classes. For me, like I didn't really feel like that. At the beginning, I kind of did. She wasn't involved, but then as she opened up, she's been attending. She's acing my class. I know it's dance, but still, dance is a very vulnerable art too.
Robin, I can see like you getting teary. Like you're such a good teacher that you actually care about these kids. Like you give them a space where they can come talk to you about this. Like that alone is huge. Like, and that's a big thing for like, I just have so much respect for teachers after seeing you guys in your profession, because you go home with this. Like you're talking about this outside of school hours. It's not just a 9 to 5 job. Like I shut off my computer and don't even think about work after. And this is something that still you're like trying to find ways to help her. That's amazing. And stuff like that is what's going to make an impact in her life.
Hopefully. Maybe I'll show her this video.
You should.
Yeah. But it's true, like when we looked online, and it did say that when you're comparing, especially if it's grades, because that's a big thing. Like yes, the kids have so many like talents and so many things that they're good at, but for some reason like parents do like to focus in on grades. Well, how are you in school? How are you in this? And it's report card season, so we are hearing a lot of that as teachers, right?
It's crazy.
And then the more that they see their parents trying to compare them with everyone else, you do feel like, oh my God, like what's even the point? Like, why should I even try?
People say to each other's kids, like at gatherings, like, oh, report card the car, like some other, like a cha-cha or somebody else.
No, that's not okay.
And like now, like luckily my parent, we never had that. Like none of my uncles or aunts did that. But I've seen with my eyes, like
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, they were saying like the cha-cha was like, report card the car, the kid's like panicking. And the parents aren't even like defending the kid, like, no, like you don't get to see the report card, it's private. Like, you know, I'm so happy that we're so aware. Like, I feel like, no, that belongs to my kid. If they want to show you, they can show you. Like, that's not, you know.
And if anything, that's for me to see, not everyone else to see. I don't need to show you what my kid is doing.
That's what they do. They compare their kids.
But this is the thing. Those parents are clearly telling their other relatives. Yeah. And so, like, just, you know,
gives them an
give me advice, or they're probably like, here, I'll be the hero and ask them, but they're not realizing that's just creating so much anxiety.
Kind of giving the kid an idea of what they think their parents, how the value that their parents see in them. So I don't know, for me it also reminds me a bit of social media, where like even other people's families, you don't know what's going on, but like they present the best of that kid. So you know, it's not like a fair comparison when you do it anyways. And it's just going to increase how much stress they have, how much anxiety they have. Like, why go down that road? But like, it's not just report cards, right? So if it's siblings, like we were talking about your siblings and stuff, like you've got, in our culture, if you've got a brother, I don't have one, but you've got a brother. Like, how did you guys get compared?
Oh man, how did I get compared? I'm blanking out.
Or maybe not compared, but like maybe treated.
Well, treated differently, yes, that's for sure. Not necessarily compare, like verbally.
Expectation-wise, maybe?
Expectations were definitely different. And I brought this up recently too, because I feel like I've had trauma from that. Like how he was allowed to hang out with friends more than I was, like without question, no questions asked. But here I am, like having to beg to hang out with my friends. And not only that, then I would have to take my little sister with me. Like the only reason I was allowed. So my little sister's chaperoning me. I was like, oh, you're not allowed to go unless it's with your sister. Right? And I don't know, I just felt less than. I didn't feel like I was worthy enough
to get that basic thing of like, let me go see my friend.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
And if anything, even the comparing thing with the whole report card, I did get straight A's, and that still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why didn't you get 100%?
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
You're always gonna feel inferior unless you're like the top mark in the class.
Yeah. And then even when you were talking about like how report cards comparing other kids, and so were you. I remember when I was teaching elementary, a few of them, especially at a Punjabi school, they were all asking, a lot of them were asking, what number, what rate is my child? The rank, what rank? Is it the top 3 or is it top kid? And I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't do that.
Yeah, and
that's not what we don't do that at all. That's not right. And on top of that, I never said that, but I did vocally say that's not right. That's not what we do here, and it's not good for the kids to do that because we're not creating good competition.
No.
Well, it's not the whole point of school is
competition.
not to be in competition with other people. The point of school is to learn and actually do better than you did previously. Like when we do report cards now, we're grading them on their progress. We're not grading them on A+ on this, A+ on that. We're grading them on how well are they improving and how well can they share what they're learning, right? So yeah, like we're not trying to create competition with kids. Like even if you've got 2 daughters and whatever, you're comparing them in behavior on, oh, she always makes her bed, she always cleans her stuff, you don't do anything, you don't do this. Honestly, maybe your kid's getting bullied and you don't know what they're going through, and just getting out of bed and going to school might be the hardest thing for them. Because you can be 8 years old and you can be in depression.
Yeah, and you need to know the signs of depression. One of the main signs of depression is you're sleeping a lot more than you normally would in comparison, right? Like I know when I feel really down, I don't want to get out of bed. And sometimes you just don't have the capacity at that point to even talk about it with other people either, right? Sometimes
you're still figuring
it out. And sometimes that being in that bed allows you to do that and gives you that space. But if you're constantly telling me, why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you doing, it's time to get up. And I had that too, right? Like it's time you've been laying in bed all day, and it's like, oh my God, like can you please just stop? Like I don't have space at home to be myself. I can't be myself outside. Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah. I know I had a bit of that comparison with my sister in that way, because when I was younger, I didn't grow up in my prime, like 5 years with my parents. I grew up with my grandparents in India. So when I came back and I was living now with my parents and my sister, I remember being so confused because I didn't know who they were and I had no idea why I was there. And then when my grandparents went back, I was like, okay, like now I've been left behind. I don't know what's going on, right? And I remember my parents saying to me, like, you know, she always spends time with us and she talks with us this way and she'll cuddle us and sit with us. And like, we never see that from you. And like maybe talking down on me a little bit as well. And I just felt like I should try. And I did try, and it was so awkward. And it just made me feel even worse. Like, and just that comparison, like they didn't maybe realize what I was going through. Like that, even if you're a kid, you're going through stuff, right? Yeah, I just had no idea who they were. So like, how can I even be in that same place when this person's upbringing or relationship with you is so different? Like you can't have that same expectation for everyone, right? And it does mess you up a little bit.
But it's so weird that carries on, you know, like now we're talking about our childhoods, right? But now when you're seeing like the adult version of that, the comparison when it comes to your jobs, your relationships, who you're dating, your children, the way that people compare like their life, and social media is like a big part of this, is like, wow, the stress and the anxiety and the way people internalize like, oh, so-and-so's living like this. You're only seeing a fraction of their life. Like what I post on social media is like maybe 1/100th of what I do all day long. Like that's not, you know, you don't see the parts where I'm crying all day and like, because that's not the kind of stuff I want to share. But at the same time, maybe now I should. Because it's so interesting to see that then that becomes a comparison, right? So there's a lot of times that I'll see, because I follow a lot of these mom groups, and people are scared to be vulnerable and ask questions and do things because they're feared that then they'll be judged or, you know, compared.
It's funny because like sometimes I'll post something it might be something I've gone through, not necessarily what I'm going through right now, but I've gone through and I relate to it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna post this. Someone will be like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, but can I not just post something without being asked that am I okay? Sometimes, yes, like, you are going through that, but that's all if you're constantly posting about it over and over and over again, right? But I think I'm at that point, but I guess they're trying to be helpful, like, hey, they're going through something, let me reach out.
But I think
you never
I've
know.
gotten to the point where now I'm like, it's so not who you are, because I've seen people who would post like so much, like over the top posting about their relationship, and then all of a sudden you hear that they've split up. Like, it's to the point where it's like almost like you want to vomit. That's how much they're posting, and then it's like bam, right? So that's the kind of stuff where it's kind of like, you know,
fake.
It's fake. So then, if we're using that to compare our relationships,
and
so unhealthy.
But they've had that comparison thing. If you are someone who's been compared your whole life, and then maybe you take it with you, maybe that's why it's happening. Like, I know I've seen a really good video. Jay Shetty put it out. Okay. I love him. Him and his wife. They do a lot of videos like that. And there was one about, it was a woman comparing the relationship she had with her partner to the relationship someone else has. And like, oh, like you guys only stayed in on Friday for a movie. Like, we went to the mall, we did this, he got me this, we went shopping and we bought jewelry. But then, like, she was so unhappy that it was all, like, superficial stuff, right? So, like, rather than comparing, like, maybe if we look at solutions, like, what should we be doing? Like, I think what we're doing with our kids now, and the school system's trying to do, where you just look at who you were before, what you knew before, and are you doing better now? Are you on that road to progress now? I feel like that's the best thing we can do to actually get away from this comparing lifestyle.
and honor where you are right now, and don't keep beating yourself about where you were, right? Because it's all about, again, self-growth and comparing yourself to your past, right?
That took me a long
if that makes sense, but not like battering over it. Be like, but at the same time, like, honor the growth that you've done. Like, wow, I was like this before, and now I'm way better off. Right? How you thought before and how you think now.
That's the best comparison you can do. Like, that's what we should all aim for, 100%.
And then I also want to bring up, sometimes people will, when you're talking about, oh, we did this, we did that as a couple, right? The couple to couple comparison, but like, couples sometimes bring that in within their relationship. Oh, this couple's doing this. Why aren't you doing that for me? And when we start comparing others' relationships, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I've done that before, and I've realized it doesn't make me feel good. And then I'm like, wait, our relationship is different. It's not that relationship, right? But then, like, when you said, all of a sudden they've broken up. So, but at least I have the capacity to be real about it. And rather than trying to fake all the fights and all the arguments, and then just saying you're together, but you're really not on the same page. Right.
I know when I was struggling the most in my life, I wasn't posting sappy stuff. Like, I mean, I was just posting me and my kid and whatever, right? Like, I wasn't showing the world how miserable I was, because that's not what I was thinking social media should be used for. So I was only posting my happy times. So no one really knew what I was going through. So if I really think about it, like, that's probably everyone. And I think that's why I'm so realistic when I'm looking at stuff now. It's like, because I know the other side. Interesting.
Well, thanks for joining us today. That was our little conversation about comparing, and I'm sure you guys have all had experiences with this, whether it's in your relationship, with your partners, yourself, or your kids, your siblings, whatever. Share, send us a comment, and we would love to hear about your experience as well. You can give us a follow on Instagram at Korner. Thanks for watching.